Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Rail, Broken Things, the brainchild and creation of Dave Dorman. You may know Dave Dorman probably mostly from his Star Wars painted covers for Dark Horse Comics. He hasn't done much interior art in his whole career. He pretty much came out of the gate in the 80s already like he was a really good painter. So pretty much he was recruited by a bunch of companies to just do like beautiful painted covers for their comics. He did a lot of film work, storyboard stuff. And every now and then, though, he'd draw an actual comic. And this is one of the few he's drawn in decades, in all the decades of his working. This came out in 2001. And Dave Dorman, he made the story for this and did all the art. But he got this science fiction writer named Del Stone Jr. to do the script for him. Maybe he didn't feel comfortable doing all the dialogue and all that. So we start off with a very typical, nice painted cover by Dave Dorman. This is what he's known for, doing this kind of photorealistic style. This inside front cover is very much of its time. It's like very Dave McKean, post-Dave McKean. And this is very interesting. The three colorists listed are Dave Dorman, Chris Moeller, and Scott Hampton. Two pretty damn good artists in their own right. But he just got them to help him color this issue. And I've never seen them just color something. You know, these guys usually, color their own work. And usually it's pretty sumptuous painted art. Gotta say this coloring looks great in this. Really nice stuff. So this comic takes place in this post-apocalyptic world after the Iron Wars have been finished. I guess 8 rail barons started these wars, and now that they're over, are totally profiting from them. Basically, the situation for everyone else sucks, though. Basically, everyone in this world is like a serf. Lowly, they can't better themselves. They're just stuck in this shitty situation where they have to work, slave away for these rail barons. I guess one of the main locations in this world is Mortal City, a giant metropolis. Pretty shitty city, though. It's not very good. So it gets so bad there that a lot of people keep moving west into what they call the Rail. The Rail basically means the wastelands around the city. For some reason, they have a nickname for it called the Rail. So I guess because it's a post-apocalyptic civilization, look at these poor guys. They have to pull this guy's train. I guess maybe they don't have enough fuel anymore to make the trains run without manpower. We see this assistant to one of the rail barons, and his name's Angelo Keto. And he goes in to see his boss. He's one of the big rail barons. Grin, his name is. And he has this woman companion. We don't know if they're married, what their situation is. But she's almost like his oracle. He calls her the witch a lot. Very mysterious figure. So Angelo tells his boss, he says, one of the cattle cars has gone missing. So basically, Grin says, you better find it. Meanwhile, the witch is looking at this piece of rock suspended in this beam. And she says, I feel something trembling within the artifact. So this is some kind of a magical type stone or something. Angelo also tells Grin about how this ranger out in the wastelands has been asking questions about Industrial Rail Combine. That's his company. He's called The Edge. Well, his real name's Edgar Wallace, but they call him The Edge. That's his nickname. So he says, take care of that guy too. This is very interesting to me. You know how sometimes a heavy-handed inker will almost make the penciler look like his art? Like, for example, when Alfredo Alcala inks anyone, it kind of just looks like Alfredo Alcala art. Like Klaus Janson in the 70s, he could ink Sal Buscema, and it looked way more like Klaus Janson than Tal Buscema. I've never seen a colorist seem to subsume a penciler, because at least the Scott Hampton colors I think I can recognize. So much of this looks very Scott Hampton to me, Hampton-y. And Scott Hampton was known for his beautiful, like almost like oil painting looking colors in his comics. But it almost makes the art appear like it's Scott Hampton. There's some panels in here where I'm like, oh, I would totally think that was Scott Hampton. Needless to say, though, that I just love the coloring almost every page here. Really good color choices. So now we're in Mortal City. This train car shows up full of dead bodies. The medical examiner of the city, her name's M. Decease, and she's investigating. And then another major character in our story pops up, Iguana. He's friends with M. Decease. She tells him that all of these guys are dead from overdosing on this speed-like drug called the Quick. I guess this drug was developed during the war. It's a performance enhancer, but just like speed in our world, you can overdo it. But these guys are all dead from it. So she's like, what the hell's going on? Of course, the car is from IRC, Grin's company. They're always involved in something shady. Here's what I was talking about, that Scott Hampton-ness. I would totally think that was a Hampton panel. So she basically says, my jurisdiction doesn't go past Mortal City. I need you to do me a favor. Take the evidence of this toxology report. These shenanigans I found out about what IRC is up to. And please find Edgar Wallace. He's the last, trustworthy ranger left. And because Edgar Wallace is he's basically left Mortal City a long time ago and has just been out in the rail, kind of in the wastelands. But I guess all the other rangers, they're pretty corrupt. They're basically in the pocket of the rail barons. So he agrees. And we also find out from the dialogue, he knows Edgar Wallace. He hasn't seen him in years, though, but they're old companions, so. Oh, man, look at this beautiful colors. Total Scott Hampton face, though. But I love this lush purple for the sunset. There's some beautiful looking stuff. So now we meet Edgar Wallace, the Edge. He's out in the desert. And I guess he gets a letter from Iggy. So he's like, oh, so Iggy wants to meet me in Promontory City. So before he meets the iguana, though, he meets this guy. This guy's name is Thomas. He's a rail baron, but he's actually the one nice rail baron. Treats his workers well, doesn't do all these horrible shenanigans that the other rail barons do. And he owns this company called One World Rail that he inherited from his father. He basically asked to see, Ranger Wallace because he wants to be a whistleblower, basically. He has evidence that a lot of the other rail barons, including Grin's like the ringleader, they've been doing lots of bad stuff. Basically, their crews are just slaves. They actually live in concentration camps. They're all addicted to the Quick, which of course they encourage. And they're just drones. And they live in bondage, basically. So he doesn't like this. And he's like, hopefully you can do something about it, Ranger Wallace. You're the only ranger who I could trust. Such good looking pages, man. This stuff just looks great to me. One of the stories of The Wasted Lands, that's the overall title of these stories, because there's one of these stories appears in A1, that great anthology from the 90s. One appeared in Heavy Metal, which is totally apropos because this just looks like, yeah, this would be perfect in Heavy Metal. This is the kind of reason This is why you read heavy metal in the first place. Shit just like this. I guess more tits would be helpful if it was a heavy metal story. So he goes to meet Iguana. He's in that little town. Just does great background art too. Just the settings. I wonder if that's from, working in film. Always having to do the sets, basically. Draw the locations. So Iguana fills him in. This little kid asks Iguana for an autograph. I guess he's almost like a dime novel hero in this world. There's this pulp writer who writes adventures about him. And then while they're talking, they're attacked by these scary-looking monsters. I love the design on these guys. They got no eyes. And then this comic really kicks in with the action. So Iguana says, take that information, get it to where it's needed. I'll hold them off. So he reluctantly agrees. The Edge jumps on his motorcycle. And it doesn't look like Iguana's doing too good against all these monsters. So he contemplates going back to help him, but then he realizes he's got his own problems because all of these monsters on motorcycles pop up and they start chasing him. More great color choices. Great stuff. There's some fun action, I totally picture this being filmed by George Miller. I guess, once again, this is where his film work kicks in. It's very storyboardy. Really interesting set pieces. The monsters chase him into this excavation site. We see those drones we heard about. These guys are just like robots. They're barely human anymore. Some nice stuff. Here's something I didn't notice until last night. He's really almost always draws beautiful backgrounds. But then whenever it's like a moment of impact or like the money shot, it's just white to really accentuate. Then they're kind of at repose. So there's the background. But then he kicks them white. This big panel here, white. To really emphasize the, this monster's getting punched. The impact. So it looks like the monster's kicking his ass. But then Edgar picks up the stone. And he feels the strength going through his arm as soon as he touches it. And he bashes in the monster's face. Turns out it's a robot. What they call in this world, they call them tubers. And he looks at the strange rock and it's kind of got these runes on it. So he's like, no, I'm definitely going to save this. Something special about this rock. Then more of the monsters start chasing him. And Edgar rides his motorcycle off the precipice onto this descending ramp. That's a pretty fun panel. See, once again, the money shot, just white. So he successfully lands on this ramp. The other monsters were too late. They can't get on. So he's safe for a second. Just really good conceptual designs of everything. So he's looking at his motorcycle, trying to fix it up before he gets to the bottom. And then all of a sudden, he hears this sound and he whips around with his gun. And it's this woman who carrying a little red truck. A little red wagon, I meant to say. And she's obviously like some apparition. And she just tells him all of this cryptic, weird, prophetic stuff. It's kind of cheesy. A little cheesy. It's almost like she's his spirit guide. And then she just disappears. just as the descending platform is getting closer to the surface, and these other monsters are waiting for him at the bottom, and they're already firing at him. So he realizes she's disappeared, and then we see that witch woman. She's says, "You meddle where you shouldn't, little girl. You were warned to keep your nose out of this mortal business." So apparently she knows that apparition-like woman. Man, I just love this design of her, that dress, and her. She's blind, so she wears these this weird blindfold thing. But this could totally be like Mike Kaluta, like great Mike Kaluta to me. Also, could be great Scott Hampton. But it's really Dave Dorman. So he practically flies off this platform on his motorcycle, guns a-blazing. It's another fun panel. And he escapes down this ravine. And they're hot on his tail. But then luckily, he sees this dirigible above him. And it's carrying like a big fuel car. A giant tanker full of fuel. And he shoots the wires on it so it crashes behind him. And it blows up right in the ravine, basically separating him from these monsters. Look at this, the way the fire is painted. That looks really good. But one of the monsters actually makes it through. And this is insane. Look at him. He's totally on fire. He's like Ghost Rider. And this Edgar is just like, holy shit, this fucker won't die. Oh my God. But he does. He kills him. So once again, you can totally picture this in a movie. That would be a wicked scene. Oh my God, so Scott Hampton. So I guess the tanker has totally successfully blocked the chase, so he's safe for a while. And then he rides out to the forest, and he actually falls asleep while he's riding and crashes. Seems kind of silly for this guy. I guess he's been through a lot, though, so been through a lot of trauma. Oh, these 3 panels. Fucking beautiful. And then he wakes up. He's by a lake, and he looks out into it. And it's the lady of the lake holding a sword. Once again, beautiful design, beautiful drawing, and sumptuous coloring. And she's almost like that lady with the red wagon. It's all this cryptic, kind of prophetic stuff. How you must go on this quest. And only you can, fight the great evil out there. Kind of corny stuff. But when it's drawn this nicely, I don't care. Kind of shut up about these colors. So good. And she basically, this is kind of a convoluted task for him. He has to make a stone, find a stone, to put the sword in, which is obviously, Excalibur, and then wait for the true king to come and pull the sword out. Only one person will be worthy, and they'll start a crusade. So he's not even the main hero. He's almost like John the Apostle. He's just going to pave the way for the real hero. But we have a cutaway to the witch again. Apparently she knows this one too. She's like, you bitch. Stop meddling. And then she descends into the lake. And I love this. He kind of basically the vision is over. And there's a woman basically kneeling over Edgar saying, are you okay? But I love this, how he morphs. She morphs. Where it's like this double exposed drawing of each of these. Really neat effect. I haven't seen that many times in comics. So it turns out this woman's name is Skid. She's just a nice woman who was wandering around and saw how injured Edgar was and wants to help him. So he picks up that sword, straps to the back of his motorcycle, and they head off to reunite with Iguana. Back at Grin's palatial estate, the assistant comes in again, Keto, And he tells him the bad news about how we lost a bunch of tubers and we still haven't gotten that Edgar Wallace fellow. And he fucking bashes his head in with this very painful looking instrument with spikes on it. As we already suspected, Grin is not a very nice man, a very terrible person. Really nice design work on this mansion. Very fin de siècle. And he's furious because he also gets news that the medical examiner, that woman who I can't think of her name right now, she basically has ordered an inquiry into these nefarious doings that Grin's company is up to. So he's just like, oh, motherfuckers. Then we cut back. It looks like Iguana took care of himself pretty good. He killed all these other monster robots. And him and Edgar compare notes. And he's introduced to Skid. And Edgar shows the magical rock to Iguana. He says, I know what this means now, and this is what I choose. And it ends with the lines, sometimes the paths we choose are our own. Sometimes they are chosen for us. And sometimes it's hard to tell which is which. And this is how the story ends. It's basically the first chapter in some epic called The Wasted Lands. But I don't think Dave Dorman ever wrote anything else after this. I think there is a prose novella featuring Iguana that appeared somewhere. But yeah, I think he just keeps cranking out those painted covers for Dark Horse and other companies. And it's never gotten back to this world. I kind of wish he would. This is pretty damn nice stuff. I'm very prejudiced. Ever since I was like 12, I've loved post-apocalyptic fiction. And definitely seeing Road Warrior when it came out in '82. That sealed the deal for me. So I kind of have a lower threshold for any post-apocalyptic story. But I thought this was pretty just fun stuff. Great action. Not the best writing in the world, but man, the art is gorgeous. It's fun to look at. So yeah, definitely worth owning. We have this little afterword and just talks about the origins of the Wasted Land epic, truncated epic. Have an inside back cover of thank yous and acknowledgements in the back cover. So that's it, guys. Rail, Broken Things from 2001. Dave Dorman's baby. But I guess this baby's been aborted. So hope you enjoyed watching it. And I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.